Well, we had to make a follow-up to yesterday's video. As soon as I posted it, Dillon Danis shows up on my Twitter feed. The hero himself. The guy who's trying to save everybody from their toxic relationships. We're not going to make a big meal out of this. We've got a few other things to talk about in today's video. I'm back in my MMA bag again today. So you've probably already seen my video from yesterday. Garry has taken huge L's. The biggest simp in MMA. Also, this video got age restricted. I don't know how, but for future reference, if any of my videos get age restricted, go over to my Rumble. I post every video that I put on YouTube on there now as well, just in case. And make sure you drop a like on this video because chances are it's going to be age restricted. So help a brother out, like the video. We're on 97,000 subscribers, 3,000 subscribers away from 100k. Can we do it before the end of the year? It's up to you guys, so subscribe with those notifications turned on. Anyway, we've established that at the moment, Garry is taking huge L's. He's with a woman who's 14 years older than her. He lived with her ex-husband, which has been confirmed to not be completely true, but there was a period where the ex-husband, who is Garry's nutritionist as well, I might add, and he's got him on a vegan diet. Garry confirmed that the ex-husband did stay with them for a brief period of time. That's what I'm hearing from other MMA channels. This isn't me saying this is all allegedly. I'm just going off what all the MMA channels are reporting at the moment. Well, you're probably thinking, what's any of this got to do with Dillon Danis? Let me show you. Yesterday, Dillon Danis posted this, and it's a screenshot of his DMs with Layla Machado Garry, Garry's wife. And these DMs are from November 2018. So granted, this was before Garry and her got together, and we don't know if they're real. These could be photoshopped. I'm just reporting on what Dillon Danis has posted. So apparently, she sent him an emoji, and then he said, "Where are you from?" She said, "England, but half Brazilian." You know, she's just dropping the hint that she's got a little bit of spice to her. How are you today? If a girl initiates DMs, asks you how you are, then either someone's trying to set you up and you're about to get mugged, or it's a catfish and she really doesn't look like the pictures that she's posting, or she's trying to get something from you, unless you're some sort of crazy Giga Chad or Giga Tyrone. Dillon Danis responded, "Very cool, doing great. Where do you live?" And unfortunately, he hasn't posted a follow-up. Now, we know that the DMs didn't stop there because it's got a little arrow here and it says November 17th, 2018, meaning that she's replied. If these are real, that is. We don't know. But what's funny about this, especially if you didn't see yesterday's video, Garry's wife has wrote a book on how to be a wag. For my American audience, a wag is a wife and girlfriend of a professional athlete. There's women out there who make that their mission to date professional athletes so they can get the money and then they could potentially go through a lucrative divorce. So Garry's wife literally wrote the book on how to get with professional athletes, and 5 years ago, allegedly, apparently, DM'd a professional athlete in Dillon Danis. What are the chances of that, eh? If this is real, I wonder how many professional athletes she's actually DM'd. Ian, you need to check them DMs, mate. Have you seen them TikTok videos where someone goes round and says, "Do you trust your partner?" Yeah. Okay, get your phones out and swap them over and check each other's DMs. I think Garry would be like, "Sure, here you go." And she'd be like, "Oh, I've just run out of battery. I haven't got time for this." Anyway, we don't really know the finer details of this. Is it true or not? I was hoping last night when I seen this DM that Dillon Danis would potentially have another tweet for us today, but he hasn't tweeted anything new. He just posted this and then that's it. Oh, wait there, 7 minutes ago, he's just posted, "Do I show the rest?" Give him a like. Yes, come on, Dillon. Show us the rest. You know what it's like on this channel, lads and ladies. By the time I've finished video on this, edited it all, posted it, got past all the restrictions on YouTube, made the thumbnail, uploaded it, there's something else that's happened. It's always the case. Also, how long do you think it'll be before people stop trolling Dillon Danis? Keyboard warrior, someone's posted a picture of Logan Paul. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of over all that now. I think because the main two fights on that Misfits Prime card were that crap, I'm emotionless towards it now. Even the aftermath of it all, it's like, whatever. Dillon Danis, get back to MMA. But is he even going to fight? Because he said he's going to retire. Anyway, that being said, Dana White was on the Nelk Boys podcast and he said a few things about Dillon Danis. Now, I wish I could play this content, but Nelk Boys content is always copyright protected and it just kills the reach of these videos. So I'll tell you exactly what happened. Now, this is Kyle from the Nelk Boys. He asks Dana White, what's the deal with Dillon Danis and the UFC? Will Dillon ever fight in the UFC? He says, is that something you'll ever entertain? Dana White responds and says, I don't know. Do you think he should be in the UFC? Kyle says, I know the UFC is all about the best of the best, but if Dillon Danis worked his way up and got a few fights under his belt, would it be okay for him to compete in the UFC? And Dana White says, I've got no beef with the kid. I've only ever spoke 2 words to him in my entire life. But the problem with Dillon Danis is every time that he's around, something always happens. There's always a street fight or there's kickoffs. There's basically always drama. And then Dana White goes on to say that people think that the UFC want this drama to sell fights, but it's the opposite of what he wants, because they are a professional organization and it gives them bad publicity, which I completely understand. I've heard a lot of people say that, yeah, the UFC want all this beef and they want the crazy fight builds up and they want people to fight before the fight even happens, which I always push back on, because what you've got to remember is the UFC have got the core fan base, but they're always trying to grow the audience and reach bigger fan bases. They're trying to go mainstream. I mean, they pretty much are mainstream now, but they want to be as mainstream as boxing is. Boxing's been around for a lot longer than MMA, so MMA still has a lot of catching up to do. In all honesty, I think MMA will take over if it already hasn't, and the UFC will make a lot of money off those casual fans and the new fans who are just coming into the sport, and they're trying to be as far removed as possible from like that blood sport that it used to be, and they're trying to remove that brutality aspect from it. So Dana White having Dillon Danis in the UFC, it's a question for him of like, okay, well, we could do, but is he going to bring loads of drama where it's going to affect our organisation and our public image? And he also mentions when all this drama kicks off and fights happen and people get hit and assaulted, blah, 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 the Athletic Commission comes after them and people get fined. So it's in their best interest to prevent drama from happening. Now, Slimy Steiny makes a good point of, what about the fact that Dillon Danis was able to assist in helping that Misfits Prime card sell 1.3 million pay-per-view buys? Then Dana White goes on this big rant about how all these numbers from these other organisations are completely inflated, and it's all lies. When you type it in on Google, Misfits Prime Card pay-per-view buys, it says it sold 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, but Dana White explains about how much money that truly is. So excluding all the sponsorship money, excluding the gate, if you take into account all the pay-per-view buys, at an average of £20 each, it's 1.3 million times by 19.99. That's £25 million that they would have made just in pay-per-view buys. Dana White says if that was the reality, why aren't these organisations putting on more fights, putting on more events? It's because they're not really doing those numbers. Take into consideration Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. The number of pay-per-view buys differ, with numbers as low as 70,000 all the way up to 100, 150,000 pay-per-view buys. What's the truth? We don't really know, but 70,000 pay-per-view buys was the general agreed upon number by all the top MMA reporters out there for the Fury Ngannou fight. Now, who are bigger stars, Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou in boxing, which is a little bit more mainstream, or Dillon Danis versus Logan Paul? You're telling me that Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou struggled to break 100,000 pay-per-view buys, but Logan Paul and Dillon Danis were able to do over 10 times that? When you think about it like that, it probably is all BS. Dana White even said that if they sold 700,000 pay-per-view buys, they'd be putting on fights every year. Chances are they probably sold somewhere around 30 to 50,000 pay-per-view buys. That's what I think. Dana also made a final point saying that if they were truly hitting a million pay-per-view buys, the amount of investors and people throwing money at these organizations and promoters would be crazy. People would literally be fighting to try and invest in Misfits. So all in all, Dana didn't really straight up shut down the idea of Dillon Danis fighting in the UFC. He more so just said, we don't want anyone here who's going to be starting trouble. He said he's got no personal beef against Dillon Danis. So is there a chance that Dillon Danis could fight in the UFC? I think if he cleans up his act a little bit, stops getting into so many fights outside of the scheduled fights that he's got, and then goes on a bit of a win streak, I don't see why he couldn't sit down with Dana and Hunter and work out an agreement. At the end of the day, he's Conor McGregor's mate. I think if Conor McGregor puts in a good word, there is a potential chance that he could fight in the UFC. Now, also just a final little point, because we were talking about this Nelk Boys podcast, at the end of the podcast, when the camera was panning round, someone was able to take a screenshot of the board of upcoming fights. So this is UFC 297, and you can clearly see that there's a fight here on the board. Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page, English fighter. For those who don't follow MMA, Michael Venom Page trains at the same gym that KSI fights at. Remember, we talked about that, the fact that KSI has almost emulated Michael Venom Page's style. If you don't know who Michael Venom Page is, go and look him up on YouTube. He's got some of the best highlight KOs that is. Now, he's a little bit on the older side. I think he's in his mid-30s, 35 or 36 years old. So he's on the back end of his career. But the good thing is he doesn't really get hit that much. And he's got a very in-and-out blitzing style. He's very elusive, so he's very much still in his prime right now. You could definitely get a few years out of him, and he could certainly challenge for the belt. He'd be fighting in the 170-pound division. Is this fight 100% confirmed? According to this, you would think so, yes, but if I scroll back a little bit on the MMA Orbits page, we've got a statement from Michael Venom Page. This is from November 27th. It's the 29th now. I wish we could say for certain that we have or we haven't. He's talking about signing a deal with the UFC. Honestly speaking, we're not there yet. There's still a few hurdles we need to jump over, but like I said, we're flirting. Now, sometimes MMA fighters can say this, but secretly the deal is signed. They're just trying to hold off on saying saying something. They're trying to be a little bit inconspicuous with the things that they do say to not give away any sort of clues. But earlier today, Kevin Holland actually addressed this, and this is what he said.
I haven't been offered any fights. That's what I'm going about. That's why everybody keeps hitting me up like, yo, Kev, you're fighting. I haven't been offered any fights, like, whatsoever. So it's like, but I'm too hood for my own good. They already know what the fuck I'm gonna say.
So there you go. He said he hasn't been offered any fights. Now, well, why would this be on the board then? Sometimes the UFC can put fights up on the board that they're trying to make, and they put these little coloured dots next to the fighter's name based on if the fighter has accepted or not got back to them yet. And I think it's all colour-coded. I'm actually colourblind, so I can't tell what colours they are, and I don't know how the system works. But if that fight goes down, I would be really interested in watching that because I'm a massive Michael Venom Page fan. I like Kevin Holland as well, but MVP all the way, and I think he'd win. If that fight goes down, who do you think would win? Comment down below. I think that'd be a really good matchup in the UFC, and also if he gets a win over Kevin Holland, it kind of puts him right in the mix of the welterweight division, because Kevin Holland is a really good fighter. So there we go, a little bit of MMA reporting today, because there's been a fair bit of news, and I also will be doing a live stream for this event, UFC 296. Okay, let me know what you think of all this MMA news. It's absolutely popping off left, right, and centre. There's stories coming out the woodwork. We upload every single day, so subscribe with notifications on. We got 3,000 subscribers to go, and then we're at 100k. And when we get there, I'm going to give you guys something for free. So make sure you subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.